The Palm Springs International Airport Commission. Mr. Chairman, has the agenda been posted? Those of you who read the paper will notice that Al has another
What
title.
are you doing up there?
I don't know.
What are you now?
Chairman of the Airport Commission.
I saw that and laughed.
Yes, it was.
Mr. Director, thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. A roll call, Marjorie.
Gazelle,
Here.
Bosworth, Callahan, Shield,
Here.
Drysky's excused, Engelhardt,
Here.
Duncan, Freak,
Here.
Luders.
He's here.
Nothing's here.
Under the
Late
spell.
here.
Haven't
Okay.
That's one demerit.
Luders, Lovett, McLaughlin, Miller, Sherman,
Here.
Sisson, Spicer,
Here.
Tavel,
Here.
and Tyler.
Here.
Roll's been called.
Thank you very much. The minutes of the October 2nd meeting stand for approval.
I move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And those who oppose,
I abstain.
abstain for you are here, that's correct. Public comment. This is the time of our meeting that the public may comment on anything within the purview of the Airport Commission. You have 3 minutes, and we'd be glad to listen to what you might have to say. Seeing nobody, we will move on to introductions. Hey, Dan, how are you? Are there any introductions? Just the old, same old folks hanging around, having a good time, huh? Okay, very well. Let's move on to the action business items then.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, the first item has to do with our roadway reconfiguration, which we have been talking about for some time. There has been an ongoing subcommittee of our commission, the planning commission, and a council member that have met a couple of times on this. And the roadway is, I'm pleased to say, moving rather well now. We have gone through a couple of approval processes to where the planning commission has actually approved our roadway for us at their meeting a week and a half ago, which was good. Allowed us to proceed with getting actual design going on. The city council has also seen it that same night, so that we knew if we had that one little hiccup about whether or not Mid-Valley Parkway was going to go through in both directions, and we needed to know for sure if the council was going to support that, and nobody objected. So I need to bring you up to date as to what has happened since the last time you saw it, so we can get this commission to officially accept it also, hopefully.
This is a rough route, I don't know.
But this is kind of in reverse too. We actually had you do this last time, but we didn't actually have it done yet. As you recall, this is kind of the last layout of the spaghetti portion of the roadway that you saw. And the 3 areas that were of concern were this portion of Mid-Valley Parkway, whether or not it would go through to LCLO. This area here, which is where one of the areas where we have to measure the size of vehicles as far as how complicated it was and how many merges there would be. And then another issue came up from the subcommittee, and that was if you close this thing off to where people can't go both ways, they're going to eventually discover that they can go this way and get out to LCLO at an uncontrolled intersection. And that could cause massive problems traffic-wise. It could also divert an awful lot of traffic over to these apartments that are right over here, which probably wouldn't please them. So the subcommittee asked us to work on all of those things. And so the good news is, we actually did what they asked us. This one's a little bit smaller, I apologize, scale-wise, but the LCLO connection is still just the eastbound traffic. Westbound will not be able to happen. If you decide that you're going to try to take a shortcut, the shortcut isn't there anymore. The CNG station has to move over to this general location from here, and as such, the only people that actually need to get around the CNG station are the taxi drivers. And so we've put in this little chicane in here that will, anybody could actually drive through it if they wanted to, but we won't sign it to where it's through, and hopefully that will stop the through traffic. There will be a few people that decide they want to do that. There'll also be a few people that decide they want to go in front of the terminal until they get hung up there for an hour. We've also been able to work out the situation here to where we've got this down to just 2 roadways. We figured out a different way in which to measure the vehicles and split them apart if they're oversized and still have enough room to do it. A lot cleaner, makes it a lot easier for people to find their way around that corner. And so between those, we've been able to solve that issue. This is a blow-up of the plaza area. I'm gonna pass out.
Poor choice of word, though.
Yes. I'm passing around some of these computer drawings that show the concept of what we're doing with the plaza area. Again, it's going to have the canopy roof structure out there in one form or another. Designers are still trying to decide the shape of it and how big it needs to be. It will have a booth underneath it, and that booth is actually 1,000 square feet. It's 20 by 50, so it's a pretty good sized booth. We're going to be doing not only inspection activities out there, but since we're going to be using some of the same people to do inspection activities that currently are issuing permits for vehicles and those kinds of things, we're going to move the permitting out to that location. We may even move the seated training that we do for people that need access to the secure area to have a badge. We may move that down so that we've got an opportunity for lots of things to occur down there. So that's why it's grown in size a little bit. Basically, that's your roadway. We've now got it to where the engineers and the architects are actually starting to work on it. The landscape architect has done his first run through with his plans of it, and what he's trying to do with it is he's developed a berm and tree area around in here that kind of encloses this area where everybody will enter into as they come into the airport, and trying to create a sense of space. There won't be a lot of landscape in this general vicinity, or whatever is in there will be low. Won't be a lot of trees and those kinds of things. There will be a lot of rocks and large palms in the areas where we need security to be able to control vehicles and not allow them to move in certain directions. So we're using rocks, boulders, palm trees, berms, holes in the ground, all those kinds of natural things in order to provide security, so we don't have to put big concrete bollards all over the place and everything else. And that's what we've done in the parking lot out to the north of the building, and it's starting to take shape and looking very well. With that, I'm happy to take your questions. Yes, sir.
I don't really live in this area, I'm not familiar with all these streets, but what happens to the westbound Mid-Valley Parkway traffic? Where does that terminate then? Is that at Gene Autry?
The westbound Mid-Valley would terminate at Gene Autry and Ramon at that point.
Okay.
And
Basically, everybody will have to use Ramon Road instead of using the shortcut. Unless you're going eastbound, you'll be able to continue to go right on through there and use that.
When you say the shortcut, that's cutting off the Risco into that area.
Yes.
John?
Just to get this on the table, I move the commission approve the requested airport access road.
I'll second it.
Further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Burke, just an interesting comment. When we were going around the city bus tour for commissioners, Mayor Kleindienst indicated that the busiest intersection in the valley is Ramon and Gene Autry. And would that have any effect on traffic turning instead of going straight through into further congestion?
Now, because that intersection, even though it's the busiest, has also been expanded to meet that need. That's what the changes were a year and a half ago that they went through that process. And the actual traffic study that was done for our master plan and the airport did not anticipate this shortcut taking the traffic off of Ramon. It just was there when we put it through.
One question, and this is our responsibility to man this booth, to do the security at this booth. It's not a TSA function, is that correct?
That's correct.
I just want to note for the record that the Airport Operations Subcommittee did meet with Mr. Smoot and representatives from the City Council, Palm Springs City Council, Planning Commission on October 15th, and reviewed the first plan and made recommendations which have evolved into the one he's showing now. And I think it's responsive to our...
That's true, but we didn't get to see anything.
Well, that's true. Come on, when did you not say something?
I don't think he was there, was he?
Are
there any more discussion items? Questions called for? All those in favor?
Aye.
And those who oppose? Item number 2, VSA Airports Engineering Service Amendment number 2.
Chairman.
Yes.
Commissioner, I'm sorry. This particular item is, as you recall, a few months ago, we went through a process to select a new airport engineer. At the time, we told you and we told the city council that we had listed all the potential projects in there that they would be working on. However, we put no dollars in there at the time because we didn't know what the precise designs would be. And rather than put too much money in there, we wait for the designs to get formulated a little bit further. And so that's where we are at this point. What we're asking you to do is add design dollars basically for the roadway project, the item that I just talked to you about, for all of the design of it, as well as the terminal, that the structural members, the fabric roof structure, and the booth, so that we may proceed. And and the total, I was looking for the total amount. Total amount is $956,000 for the total work to be done. And that takes us through construction, engineering, also not just design, but through field engineering.
I move that we go along with staff's recommendation to present to the city council.
Second.
Discussion?
Does that fall within 100% reimbursement now?
Yes, portion, well, we have a little bit of money left in an older grant that allows us to do design work on security projects. That's 90%, I think it's about $100,000 in there, so $100,000 of this will be 90%, the rest of it will be 100%.
Thank you.
Yes, that's for developed projects.
Al, what's the estimated contract amount? Looks like this we're gonna run about 20% of.
The estimated contract on this is somewhere around $6 million of construction activity. And,
15%.
yes, and so that percentage is split between design and probably 9 or 8%, and field engineering at somewhere around 7%.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Item number 3, Gensler Architectural Services Amendment.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, again, members of the commission, this is an amendment to our architect's contract, and this has to do with developing a permanent home for TSA on the facility here. We are about to turn over all the temporary places to them. The trailers will be finished today, we think, and most of the other spaces will be finished and handed out by the end of the week, and they will move into those spaces. Now, they're scattered all over the building, and they are in places that we don't necessarily think they belong long-term, but we needed to house them somewhere. This request would be for Gensler to do the actual design work of about a 5,400 square foot office complex under the Sonny Bono concourse. That area would be where they would primarily be concentrated in. They would still have the small office at the checkpoint. They would have the old gift shop office down there as their storefront where the public can meet with them. And they would have the new area plus a storage room out under the concourse. This amendment has money for that work, and it allocates some dollars for some of the time and materials work that they've had to do for us to get the temporary spaces ready. And we're anticipating that we will spend probably about $400,000 to do this office complex for the TSA, and we will recoup our investment via the lease once we put that lease in place.
How long do you think it'll take to recoup?
Well, we're asking them to do a 10-year lease, and so we will probably amortize that plus our cost of money over that 10-year period. And so that, with that, we would recommend your approval of this amendment number 6, even though it's actually number 7.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Commission recommend approval of City Council Amendment 6 to the Architectural Services Agreement.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those who oppose?
Moving right along.
Bond refinancing via the financial consultant.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, as you recall, when we talked about our post 9/11 recovery plan, one of the things that we were concerned about and that we needed to try to take care of was our 1992 bond issue, which this year is the first call date on those bonds. And that bond issue has a rather rigorous restriction in it as far as our rates and charges go, and it has a coverage mandate in there that does not allow us to count our PFC revenue as revenue. It just kind of tells us we have to ignore it. And by doing that, it tells us we then have to raise the rates and charges to the airlines in order to recoup 125% of the debt service. So that means we've got to make their rates and charges 25% higher than they need to be and keep that money flowing in. What it does, it means we have to artificially raise rates and charges to the airlines, which when they're all in the shape they're in right now, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do that. So we have started out on the process to do a refinancing of these bonds. It's the only way we can get that restriction out of there. Because of the interest rates at this time, we are also looking at the possibility of pulling about $5 million of extra money out of that bond issue when we refinance, so that we can do the temporary whole room replacement that we lost our dollars because of 9/11. And so that will be part of the look that we do as we go through the process. Airport revenue bonds are a very strange animal in the marketplace, and the bonding folks, the underwriters, the insurance companies, as well as folks who buy these bonds, in this particular instance, require that there is an independent financial feasibility study done of any kind of financing. So this request to you is that we hire Suzanne Lazar of SI Partners to do this independent financial analysis for us. And the nice thing of it is Suzanne is very familiar with our financial records, as she helped set up the original pro forma that we used to do our rates and charges with the airlines. Unfortunately, that thing is like 1992 is when it was done, and over the years it's had things done to it that probably has perverted it a little bit. And so this will also give us an opportunity to have a nice new clean slate. This particular item has a cost of $82,200 on it. We will recover that from the bond issue when the bonds are refinanced, but we need to front it at this point. And with that, we recommend your approval.
Recommend approval.
Okay, I have a motion and a second.
Second.
Mike?
No, just a second.
Let's get old man. Is there a discussion, Larry?
Al, what were the circumstances that we got that 125% rule in there? And is that a market condition? And if so, do we think we can avoid it this time around?
Well, at the time we did that particular bond issue, we were also getting our passenger facility charge instituted. We were one of the first airports in the country that sold bonds around a passenger facility charge. And at the time, the industry was looking at passenger facility charge as a very iffy fee, that if airlines went away, you didn't have it, and that it wasn't a consistent revenue source. And so at the time, the marketplace ignored it. That's why they put that in. You can't count your PFC, it might go away next week. And the 125% of coverage is not an unusual item. And we will probably still have the 125% coverage requirement, but our hope is we'll get the marketplace to recognize the fact that our passenger facility charge is a steady revenue, and that, quite frankly, we'll have enough coming in to pay for all of our debt, this issue as well as the other
So
two.
that's your reasonable expectation that the market
Yes.
will let us count that in
Yes.
the income stream?
And in the conversations that the financial team has been having, the underwriter as well as the city's financial analyst who works on these projects for us, they've been talking in the marketplace already, and they believe we'll get there. It's just a matter of getting through the stepping stones here.
Thank you.
What kind of interest rates are we paying?
The 1992 bonds have a coupon rate of 6.3, 6.4. And right now, the non-rated bonds in the marketplace, when they talked to us last, we had a coupon rate of like 5.3, 5.4. We don't believe we'll actually get this issue rated or insured because of some other things that I don't understand about financial bond market things that the financial team has told us about. But we expect an interest rate that will cause savings for us and hopefully be able to pull out that extra money.
How much was the original bond issue and how much is the refinance?
The original bond was, we raised $12.8 million on that original bond, and it was about a $14 million issue, $14.5 million issue. This new issue, if we actually raise the extra $5 million, will probably bump back up to probably a $16 million bond issue. So we'll actually have more bonds outstanding. But because of interest rates and be able to spread the term back out, should be able to keep the payment exactly where it is now.
Real quick question, that 82,000, that's the fee for the work.
That's the fee for the work, and it's a time and materials fee, so if they don't get to all of those dollars, I mean, a lot of it's for travel to New York, if we have to go talk to the rating agencies and other stuff.
It's a not to exceed
It's
price.
a not to exceed amount.
And that's competitive.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Ms. Lazar and SI Partners seem very well qualified, and we've worked with them before. Has there been any attempt to seek out a local financial organization that could be equally as qualified as they are?
At the time that we hired them in the first place years ago, and the second time we hired them 4.5 years ago, we looked for that. There's a lot of financial expertise in the local area here, but none of it that's had anything to do with the financial feasibility study for an airport bond issue. It is very specific expertise.
The resume looks very impressive at all the other airports that they have.
They do it all over the country.
Any other discussion? If not, the question is called for. All those in favor?
Aye.
And those who oppose? Passed. TSA permanent office, we've seen this already.
Yes, we're back to that issue again. This is a recommendation that the commission recommended council that we appropriate $400,000 from our retained earnings account and use that for the development of the office space for TSA. As I said, that will be, there's a little drawing under here, under the main concourse, about 5,400 square feet. And we're looking to do a 10-year lease. We've started discussions with GSA on it. And we want to get the design started. We obviously won't commit to construction until we have the lease in place and have that back here before the commission. But I anticipate that within a month or so, we'll have the lease worked out, and it will be a market rate lease plus our investment costs. So we'll do fine on it.
Would this be then proposed to the city council before we have the lease? Or
it will go to the actual request for the dollars from city council will probably go at the time we actually have the hard bids in place, so that we don't ask for, I mean, if this thing comes in at 290,000 instead of 400, I don't want to take 400,000 out of there. So the day that the council approves the construction, they will also appropriate the dollars.
Well, as I recall, Tom said he was gonna have about 25 on his staff and about 75 people for the screening process. How many of those are you actually providing office space for, just the staff itself?
This is basically his administrative staff. He's got an administrative staff for our airport as well as the other two airports that he operates. And some of that function, like their personnel function and their procurement function, those kinds of things will be housed here for all three airports. So yeah, we're talking about, he's got probably 20 people permanently officed in that particular area down there.
I was surprised to read the paper, he does have a couple other airports under his wing too.
Yes, Imperial and Yuma. Matter of fact, the Yuma screeners are downstairs right now being trained. And our screeners are in Yuma operating their airport.
Terrible.
Alan, I have kind of a hypothetical question. if sometime in the future, the level of security were reduced, for example, I don't know that it will, would this space be useful for us as for some other use for airport needs? I don't know, I don't picture where this is. And if there is that possibility, should some consideration in the design of maybe infrastructure, whatever services you're going to put into that room would anticipate, perhaps it's converted to another date that would be useful. And I preface that this is a hypothetical.
No, it's a good hypothetical. The area was originally designed for airline operations areas down there, which are generally, nondescript office spaces where people are working. We have had zero luck in leasing into the airlines, and one, of course, a dead storage space. If in the future TSA goes away, and I would be willing to stake a lot of money that it's going to be a long time before that happens, we could reuse that space and use it for operation space for the airlines if we wanted to, or we could put we could move our administrative staff down there and lease out these offices for more money up here. So there will be a use for it. It won't go to waste. It won't be the world's nicest offices just because the area has low head clearance underneath there, and there's not a lot of windows and those kinds of things. So it's a place to work, but not the best.
Bill?
Maybe it's a possibility if that happens there, that we could make a decent conference room.
Good size one.
It's a higher ceiling.
I'd rather have a lower ceiling and push down.
You want a motion?
All right, I'll take a motion on this issue.
Motion to recommend.
All right,
Second?
second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Passes. Air Service Incentives Program, and I believe that's probably going to be Richard.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Richard's going to give you a report on this and answer your questions, and we'll.
Mr. Chairman and the Commission, this report before you is something that we've worked quite extensively on with the subcommittee, the marketing subcommittee of the Commission, as well as many other folks involved in this. And what we have here before you is the air service incentive criteria. We've had some discussions in the past about ways to incentivize the airlines to get in and not payments to the airlines. And one of the things that has rung true through various meetings with the airlines and various negotiations with them is marketing funds. In doing the marketing funds, the one element, the key paragraph that was in here was that the flight we went after, we want it to be successful, because then we, the Valley, get that flight into perpetuity and we get all those benefits that are derived from the flight. The marketing funds are only for the initial year, and the reason for the marketing funds for the initial year is to get an awareness out there of the flight, of the service that was not previously there. It behooves us to want to participate in that so that the flight doesn't get pulled. I mean, the worst thing we'd have is we get somebody to start a flight, they don't have any marketing funds, we don't want to offer any marketing dollars, the community doesn't want to offer any marketing dollars, and we wind up with a 38% load factor, and then I get a phone call 6 months later saying we're pulling the flight, and it's going to take 5-7 years to ever get that flight back in. So the flights that we've gone after, we've always gone after them knowing that it had good traffic behind it if we could get the traffic aware of the flight and the service. In doing that, we have always turned to, behind closed doors, the CVA and Palm Springs Tourism and said, look, you guys have large advertising budgets, you're always working with us. I need X thousands of dollars of your budget set aside to basically grant, as in the sample letters that were included in your packet, to the particular airline. And we would tell them what the situation was and what was going on. We'd also work with the group meeting hotels over getting room nights, golf packages, dinners, and those items would be given away on radio stations in the Atlanta market, in the Chicago market, in the Denver market, in the Seattle market, in the Sacramento market, whichever carrier we were working with for that new route that was being done. And it's all about just making awareness in that destination, for our destination, the new service that's now available. That will then prop up the load factors. One of the best examples we had of that was a situation with Horizon Air. One evening I received a phone call from their vice president of planning indicating to me that the load factors were looking awfully soft and they had a new situation in Tucson in which they would like to remove the service from this airport. And I said, wait a second, give me 24 hours and I'll call you back. And we put together some ad runs that happened in the Sacramento market that were not paid for by the airport, that were paid for by outside entities. Those ad runs propped the numbers up from 38% to 62%. And as we all know, the Sacramento flight remains here. But it was just an awareness issue. The community up there was not aware of the service to our wonderful destination. And we were able to provide that. What we're looking to do now is get away from constantly turning to the CVA and Palm Springs Tourism. Their ad dollars that they have are to promote the valley and promote what's here in the destination, but not necessarily to pay for marketing specifically related to the air service program. And a fully evolved air service program, one that's been as successful as ours, needs to have a mechanism out of our system to pay for itself and be able to pony up to the table for the specific marketing that is to prop the flight for that first year and help support it and get the awareness out there, thus benefiting the entire valley in the long run. And the criteria that's before you is to meet FAA requirements that it be fair and equitable to all carriers. That's why the criteria that's before you, as was discussed with the marketing subcommittee, was specific to route. It's specific to our destinations that are in our top 25. It is not specific to airline. You can't make it specific to airline. So in any one of those markets that's listed, you could have carrier X provide the service, even though somebody else might have a hub in that market. It'd be highly unlikely that that would happen, but that's why it is specific to market. It is specific to the route. It is not specific to air carrier.
Richard, the incentive that we have now, is that airline specific? We do have some incentives that we're not anymore.
This totally replaces the one we've had with American for a number of years.
Subsidy.
That was a subsidy, and that was not ours. That was the Valley's,
Yeah.
and it's my understanding that is no longer on the table for American Airlines.
Richard, I went before our council and made a pitch at one time to continue the American, and they thought I represented the commission here when I made that pitch for them, which they voted for. But what is the difference in the subsidy and the incentive? I don't get.
The difference between a subsidy and incentive, the subsidy is a flat-out check that is written to American Airlines. That money American just puts into their bottom line. The incentive program is something that is justified based on the start of new service. American Airlines service has been here for year after year after year. This program does not propose that we pay marketing dollars to advertise somebody's service year after year after year. It is merely an incentive program for that first year when we're in negotiations with the carrier and we're simply trying to close the loop. Time after time when we've asked for the various air service that we have in this airport that's new, we come down to 2 or 3 cities that they have to choose from. Depending on who the carrier is, some of the competitors are typically Tucson. That is just an absolute thorn in our side, and there are some other cities out there such as Boise. And when we go asking for service, we know who's on the list with us at the top. If they offer a particular incentive program, usually it's not any sort of payment, it is merely the marketing effort that is put behind it. The carrier also wants to see their flight have a significant load factor on the plane to thus produce a positive yield for them. That's all we're trying to do is get them aware of the fact that Palm Springs has an incentive program. It's available to them for them if they meet the criteria posted within, and that is simply to help promote the flight. That's all that's there. The airlines have faced all their losses that they have, and the #1 area they've cut back in is specific area marketing. They now do broad scheme market plans for the entire airline. They no longer focus on doing specific market ad runs such as they used to, when they used to focus on Dallas, or somebody used to focus on Chicago, or focus on Denver. They do a more broad spectrum ad run that does not specifically benefit a market. And what we're looking to do when we do this is market the flight to this destination so that we can prop the numbers up.
Who determines what medium is going to be used and what the copy or whatever it is going to say?
We
determine that, or the airline?
We typically work directly with the carrier because the air carrier knows what papers in that market work well for them, what the demographics are for various different radio stations, and they also have buy rates within their system that they can buy the ad for, that they can place with the radio for. So we don't do that. I simply communicate with them that this was the deal in negotiations. You tell me now, you want it 6 times in the first 6 weeks to run on a Wednesday, in what paper? We then work with them over the ad content, and they control all of that. They set it up. All they do is simply say, we paid for it, there's the invoice, I get a copy of what the ad was, and then we simply pay the invoice. We do not pay a carrier for anything. There is no check written to them.
So this is not a shared thing, they tell us what it is and we pay for that?
We have done some shared things, but typically now with the industry losses, they're no longer interested in a shared thing.
Gary.
Okay, so, let's say Delta is starting up December 1st, so they're probably doing their marketing thing in Atlanta, on the nonstop. All right, if, say for example, American Airlines is going to put a through flight, same number with their stop at the hub, Dallas, do they also qualify for the?
No, they don't. It must be a nonstop flight into this airport, not a through flight.
Oh, that's interesting.
Actually, let's get this on the table.
Okay, I'd like to recommend approval of this.
Second.
Moving second, discussion, now where were we? Okay, we'll start down there, Bert.
Well, I have a general comment. I think the concept of the airport becoming a player rather than a bloodsucker when we're dealing with the CBA and the Palm Springs tourism makes us a partnership in a genuine nature. Ultimately, in the future, where we may have to draw on some of their support that we can't foresee now, we'll be in a far better position to do so. Secondly, I think the airport has reached that point in a competitive world where we just can't sit on our hands, and we have to have an aggressive program to be able to open those doors to the air carriers to capture some of those new routes. And we're moving clearly in that direction effectively now. So it's a way of keeping them going.
Sorry, did you have something?
I think it's a very attractive proposal for those same reasons that you mentioned. And I think I have a good grasp of the obvious, but let me just ask you to confirm it. You know, this is a manifestation of the sorry state of the fiscal status of the airline industry right now, where in the past, I think you said, they would do the route-specific advertising. And now it's a competitive market. If we want a new flight in here, we have to stand up to it, compete with Tucson or others that you had mentioned. You see this, this is just a curiosity I have. Do you see this becoming part of the game indefinitely, or if and when the airlines get back on their feet better, that we won't have to do this, or what's your thought on that?
I see this as being an ongoing partnership with the airlines. It will be dependent upon when they get back on their feet. Anyone's guess as to when the major carriers will get back on their feet. But this will be an item that will just be worked on year after year, and as they do get back on the feet and they start reporting positive figures, then certainly that would become a discussion point. But I would think all that we would allude to then is more of a shared effort then, rather than us paying the full boat for the marketing incentive.
Thank you.
Robert. Richard, I assume you've had some preliminary discussion with the airlines that might qualify for this. They're in favor of that, I assume.
Yes.
For it. Are there any sign-ups that are on the table waiting for this to happen before they sign the dotted line?
There is no one waiting to sign based on this. There is a tentative meeting that I have scheduled in December to meet with 2 of our carriers, and this would certainly benefit that whole process for the route, not for the carrier.
Bill?
Richard, am I reading this right? We've already made the offer to Delta, haven't we?
Yes.
So, it's kind of after the fact, isn't it?
No, it was CDA money.
That was CDA dollars and Palm Springs tourism dollars that were put in there for that.
This is our money now.
Now this is our money playing what's going on in that market. For example, in the Atlanta market right now on 3 different major radio stations, there is $30,000 worth of ads running that were bought by the CVA. And it's running in the Atlanta market to promote the Delta service. That's part of that deal there. And that's what we're trying to work into ourselves to be more of a partner in this valley in the marketing efforts.
Well, and be able to actually do it instead of saying we think we can.
Right.
I think that's part of it.
It's just good business. You know, having gig partners.
Any other comments? Gary?
I'd just like to say, I think Richard should be commended for this excellent work on this, you and your staff doing a good job
Well,
on the marketing.
Thank you for that, but I think the marketing subcommittee spent a lot of time with this, attending the meeting, so I thank you guys.
Any other comments? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those who oppose? Richard, before you leave, would you hand out the air service thing? I appreciated that. That's a good list of air service here for the winter. It's kind of nice to take a look at that. I additionally want to thank you on behalf of the commission for the work that you and Bryant and all have done on this. This is a lot of work and it's proven, and that's really great.
Well, thank you. It is a lot of work, but it is a team effort. I mean, without Alan and Barry and Mike and others involved, I mean, we wouldn't be able to do anything without having the facilities here.
Okay, we are now down to updates, or down to updates. Down dates?
Sure. The Navigator program is coming along pretty well. Hopefully some of you have seen the ads in the paper. Herb and I have been interviewing quite a few people. We've interviewed about 60 people, and we're hoping to get this started December 1st. I've asked Herb to give us a little more update on that.
Well, we're very encouraged because we've had a broad cross-section of the community in the valley show up here to interview for the proposed Navigator program, which will be a program with its mission to make the airport a friendly place, to bring back customers, as opposed to having people get the impression that there's going to be a very, very serious problem here when the explosive detection machinery comes in. We're taking the attitude that if we can make people comfortable and give them a friendly face and help them through the process, thereby they will have a better feeling about traveling and feel more confident about it. I'm so pleased and so happy to see so many great people come in. We've even had some young people who are working full-time who want to volunteer on the weekend. I'm talking about young people. They're going to be a great addition to this program, along with scores of retired people, including the gentleman who filled in the application on the line where he was to put down, "Why do you wish to be a navigator?" He wrote down, "My wife wants me out of the house."
Hire that man. We like honest people.
Anyway, airport staff's very pleased. Barry and Herb have been doing a great job of interviewing these folks. The place has been crawling with people, and so we're hopeful we'll get this kicked off and it will be a success for us.
What do you feel your basic number of core people, how many are you looking at to try and have in place?
Well, we'd actually thought about 30 people, but we've already doubled that, and so we're just going to keep going.
Okay. Curious to know how it's feeling.
Do you have a fashion consultant for the uniform?
We have a uniform.
Sure.
Mike?
Have you considered any entertainer type people, not a star, but people who like, stand-up comic types of people or something along those lines? We have some friendly face, somebody for the kids, walk them down the line, balloons or something. Just think about it too.
We haven't yet, because generally those people want to get paid.
We were thinking of dressing Barry up as well.
Yeah.
Security issues.
Yes, we have them still. Things are moving along. The checkpoint's doing very well. We're getting lots of nice comments from people about the process and how quickly people get through it, even though it's a lot more rigorous. And people are learning now that they can pretty consistently know what to do at a checkpoint because they're getting asked to do the same thing at airports they're traveling through, not just here. So we're pleased with that. We have no idea where we are with the explosive detection program. At this point, we're waiting for revision number 310 from Boeing on the plan. We continue to do the work we're going to do. We've almost got the platform completed down in the continental area of the building. That'll be done in another week. It'll pop out in front of the building. Will be done in a couple of weeks. The offices for TSA will be done in a couple of weeks. So we've got all our parts being completed. And so we have no idea what the rollout will be. Right now, they're focusing on the November 19th deadline for screeners throughout the United States, and I think they're up to 295 airports as of yesterday and have another 100 and some odd to go, but they're the smaller ones. So they're concentrating on that, and I assume they will concentrate on explosive detection right after that, because we're getting concerned that we would like this to go smoothly, not be chaos when they put it in place. So that is ongoing. The biggest problem is that Congress went away to get reelected, and the budget that they passed was a continuing resolution, which basically gave TSA the same money they had last year, and TSA wasn't in existence for a quarter of the year last year, so they have real financial problems as far as hiring the rest of the people they need to hire to do the explosive detection stuff. It's apparent Congress is going to come back and have a lame duck session. Now, whether or not they get anything accomplished or not, it will be interesting to see. It could cause some real problems. A lot of airports are still pushing to have the explosive detection deadline pushed off towards not December 31. That will be on their plate. So there's a lot of stuff on their plate. They still haven't determined whether they're going to have federal law enforcement officers at airports, or they're going to continue to utilize existing airport law enforcement people, in our case, Palm Springs police officers. That is going through the various study processes right now. They're also looking at whether or not gate screening, that's the second check before you get on the airplane, if that is going to continue. We believe that it will probably disappear here very shortly as soon as we have completed a total 100% background check of all employees that work in the concourse area. Once we get that done, they would probably pull those people back, and those may be the savior of their program. They may be the people that do the explosive detection activities. So there's lots and lots of stuff going on.
Last month when I came through Atlanta, there was a lot of objections by the passengers to the fact that when they were being frisked, they could not see their carry-on luggage. Is that being addressed here?
Yes. Here you can see your carry-on luggage. At all times that you're away from your luggage, you can see it here. It's part of the design, and Atlanta must not have been fully turned over to TSA yet, because they're redoing all the checkpoints in the country where you should be able to see your carry-on at all times.
That was my particular pleasure here, but I noticed the same thing at the other airports I was going through. I couldn't see the stuff I took out of my pocket, my passport and things like that, while I was going through training. That's something that is very important.
Yeah, they are, my understanding is they are to be changing all the checkpoints in the country there. I mean, we were the first checkpoint on the western United States to be changed over. So that, I know that process is not happening everywhere yet. Right now, they're just trying to get the people out there, but hopefully their entire program is to make it to where everybody is able to see their personal effects at the time that they're being checked.
Yeah, did the RO screeners get hired?
They went through the process. There were 25. I think currently there's 8 of them that are employed by TSA.
Only 8?
There were, I think, 5 or 6 of them that made it all the way through the training and last second decided not to work. So there was a lot of different reasons. They all had their same shot at it as everybody else did.
Have you seen the application that they're required to fill out?
Absolutely. I filled one out.
Yes.
Did you get the
It's incredible. I mean, it's like, they want a whole history of your financial situation, your background check on every employer that you ever had and where you lived and.
Overkill.
Yeah, I just wonder how much of that they really threw out as far as being pertinent.
That's part of the test, so see if you fill that out.
They didn't throw it out.
No wonder my wife grabbed
If you see in the newspaper this morning, 25 people were indicted in somewhere in Philadelphia for falsifying those applications.
What they found.
They're looking at all of them.
They got a predator missile going.
Yes, Larry. I wasn't clear, you mentioned something about gate screening being, you think it will be discontinued? You're referring to passengers now that are, is that correct?
Currently, you go through the checkpoint, you're screened, and then when you get up to the gate, just before you get on the airplane, they pull people out randomly.
Yes.
The computer does it, and they check you again.
Yes.
That gate screening may go away, not be
Nationally or just?
national, not just there, national. Right now, they're considering that. In order for that to happen, however, all of the employees, you know, the people that work in the restaurants and the gift shops and those kinds of things, who do not have access to the secure areas, so they don't have a badge, are not currently put through the same background investigation that the rest of us are that have badges. What TSA is looking at is if we can get everybody that's in that place out there working to have had their background, then there is less of a chance that somebody is going to walk in there and pass something to a passenger. And so the screening, gate screening, is a extra level of security that probably is not needed. Doesn't mean it won't come back in the event that the national threat level gets raised to the top.
That's one of the higher aspects of annoyance for passenger travel. I got tired of taking my shoes off in New York. I got to where I didn't tie the laces anymore.
Just to add a footnote, you know, I think most of you know I'm a Lockheed retiree. When Lockheed used to be alive and well in Burbank, and still get the retirement newsletter. And they reported in the last issue that the Burbank Airport, which is a triumvirate owned by Burbank, Glendale, and Pasadena, the city of Burbank is fighting all this security stuff. I think they're jousting with windmills, but
They're obviously winning too, huh?
They shut down lights.
There's, you know, there are airports all over the country that have the attitude that they fight all of these things. There's other airports that don't have that attitude. Those that don't have the attitude are the ones that get 100% grants and those kinds of things.
Any other questions on that? Next item, post AOPA.
We survived.
Yeah.
Don't say anything.
Not much. Event, as Alan mentioned, we did survive it. It was a tremendous success, not only for the airport, but the valley as well. AOPA had just slightly over 11,000 attendees for the conference, which again was another record for them. At capacity, we had slightly under 1,000 airplanes on the airport, which happened late Friday afternoon. But the problems we encountered were the ones we expected. But the flight procedures the FAA put together worked well, and the parking with the FBOs worked well. The FBOs put in just a tremendous amount of time and money to take care of the customers, and our staff helped out where we needed. But we survived it, and I'm sure they'll be back in 4 more years, although we don't have the confirmation yet.
I would add 2 things to that. I did talk to the people that are obviously going to make it happen in 4 years, and they said as soon as they hear that the ground is broken on the convention center, we are out of space. They just want us because they were ready to sign up. And so she will personally come out and sign it out. So that's what's holding it up. They love it out here. They are very pleased with the way the airport has treated them and the city, obviously, but the airport has treated them, and they've worked very closely, and I think it's a real combination to our staff, to Barry and Mike and Sean, everybody who just absolutely worked their buns off. It's a tough weekend, so I thank you guys a lot. I also want to thank the commissioners while I'm on this guy for the man in the booth. Now, all of you now know how to recommend a restaurant, I assume, because that's one of the most common questions you get there. I do want to thank you that that booth, while it wasn't the high-profile booth of the century, does add a little bit of local flavor to it, and a lot of people stop by and were kind of curious. So I felt that we did had a good thing going there. I want to thank Barry and Mike for supporting it and getting it all together and so forth.
I'd just like to make two comments. One, the level of and frequency of questions being asked that could generate a lot more revenue for the valley. We did become the Palm Springs Tourism Bureau of the CDA. I think their presence would be very helpful for the attendees and that volume and number in the future. They can either share a booth or they can multiply information available for pickup. I think also we should take advantage of that sort of publicity to purchase a collapsible display unit that could have a permanent location here in the airport. What I'm talking about is the backdrop with a nice banner, which would be ours, not borrowed, which we had to do. And I think also brightly lighted as needed. The whole idea there is that we're going into outreach, we're going to other places. Even when you make presentations to airlines, take it along with you because those things are available. The information, not only the photographs, which are excellent to display Palm Springs, could be in a permanent display in the airport. Remember the Village Fest. What about the College of the Desert? People could rent space on it. There is any number of possibilities to feature something as people arrive, not just welcome to Palm Springs, which is needed and is there, but you can have something for people who are just groping on things to do, to see a highlight somewhere in their access channel going into the luggage area. The information counter is fine, but a static display is a way of storing it and also using it. And when you take it with you, it collapses into something very small. But that's not all cheap. And to support the photographs, to support the purchase would be about $5,000 to $7,000. And rotating signs that might go up unless you rent the space for something. It could be conventions today or something like that. So those are two observations. One, we need the Palm Springs people and CDA to come to the party there. And number two, an added marketing tool.
Better display booth, okay?
Yeah, Bill Kleinke spoke to our Rotary group last week and said that he was told personally that in 4 years we need a bigger convention center, but they will not be back. And he was saying that it's about a $25 million expansion, and nothing was going to happen until after yesterday. So as soon as he knows what the ground rules are going to be, then they're going to move ahead. But that's definitely on the agenda.
We're interviewing the architects Friday.
Jerry.
Yeah, I was just going to mention this, the other thing, that we did in fact get charged for that table and for all the work you guys did. It seems kind of ludicrous for us to have to be paying for that. And was that discussed, Barry, you were going to have them on it?
Yes, we did talk with them about that. Hopefully next time, it was more or less the service that was working for AOPA charged us for the table and the chairs.
Okay. And then the last comment I have, you know, considering that they did the staff, and then they had that Sonny Bono Concourse Memorial, it was amazing that you all had these back-to-back situations and you did them so well. Very, very good.
Robert.
Besides steering people to the restaurant guys and whatnot, the question that I got most often had to do with the Air Museum, and we had nothing, no information. They want to know where it was. You could tell them where it was, but they want to know the hours of operation, admission fees and whatnot. I think I'll make a note the next time we have propaganda material for the Air Museum. And maybe work out a discount deal for the members to go there.
I think it's good luck.
Does ALPA do a postmortem on these? Do they ask the attendees to give them a critique?
They do. I don't know what that process is.
Well, we have access to some of those. It'd be interesting. I got a lot of comments from pilots that go in rather than fly in because they're concerned about congestion, whether FAA would, if they could get out, or there'd be long delays as there were 4 years ago for people to get out.
Well,
how that worked.
To kind of back up with the history of the flight procedures, the flight procedures for this time were revised completely from '98. The problem that we expected and the problem we encountered is that the flying community did not take advantage of all the internet sites and the publication of all those procedures and have reviewed them and studied them prior to their coming in and or departing from Palm Springs or even with Desert Resorts Airport. That's the biggest challenge with the pilot community is they just don't do their homework.
Yeah.
On Sunday, on departure day, I could have walked around this airport and picked out every aircraft that did and did not follow those procedures. The guys that followed them were started up, taxied, and they were gone out of here in 15 minutes. I could have picked them out. I could have picked every one of them out. And you know, we do all we can. The FBOs did a great job of, in help from FAA's runway safety program. We had a bag, and they just held it in front of their face all the time. You got to read this stuff in here. The people that did it did a great job. And as far as getting any comments back from them, I don't know if we'll get that. We've requested that from AOPA. I haven't got a response from them. AOPA does have a lot of highlights from each day of the convention on their internet site, which is aopa.org, and you can go in and read that, and they have a recap of every day. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, it just if there's something that we know about that would be useful for the next time around when they come back, that's the point.
Yeah, I mean, we've held our debriefing for Donnie Airport stuff. I participated in the debrief with the city side of it. They've encapsulated all that and forwarded on to AOPA and kept it for us for 2006.
Mike, was the internet site, the AOPA internet site downtown? In other words, to go there to look it up?
There were no terms for their procedures, the arrival and departure procedures.
I had a kind of a hot discussion with a guy who was pretty disgruntled about getting turned away, and then I kind of asked him, well, did you look at the site? Well, no. That kind of thing, and just what I expected, but that's going to happen,
The very first thing when we started this whole thing was we wanted to use the internet as much as we could, and information on the airport site, AOPA, the tourism agencies around the valley, all were linked together, different parts of it. I don't know the actual traffic numbers and the hits we had on the internet site, but it was all there and available for people. It was available a month before the convention.
Okay.
So.
I'm already on that. I'm just trying to figure out any other way we could possibly make sure we see that stuff.
I don't know how to do it either. If I figure it out, it'll be great.
Rather than run a full course.
I just wanted to thank, and I don't know if you guys have met Eric Anfield, he's our new general manager for Millionaire, and Karen, right?
Right.
Yes. They were a big part of the success of MBA.
I do want to thank those guys. I did want to introduce you as the new general manager. Welcome aboard.
Well, thanks very much. I'm Eric Affelt over at Millionaire and also have responsibility for the Millionaire facility down in Thermal. And I, again, was going to take the opportunity to say thank you to the airport for the work during AOPA. It was busy for everybody, our staff included, and Mike and his team did a great job. So we're very, very appreciative of all the hard work and help that they provided in putting on this event. We're just happy to be here. Thanks very much.
Great. Nice to meet you. Okay.
One last question.
Okay, this is it. One last one.
6-part question.
All right.
Wait a minute, I gotta take notes.
No, I was just kind of wondering, one of the things that surprised me at the table was that we had an awful lot of people that drove it.
Yes.
And I was kind of wondering what our total count was, if you know that.
The total count for airplanes parked on the airport was just slightly under 1,000. We actually did not reach the full number we expected. What we believe happened is the poor weather in the LA Basin Friday and Saturday forced a lot of those day trippers that would come to the convention to drive, and that dropped the numbers down. Also, the convention being on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we saw activity a lot earlier than '98. We were at roughly 75% of parking capacity by Thursday evening. In fact, we were all by Thursday afternoon. I was anticipating we would be saturated with event parking by Thursday night. And it, all of a sudden, 7 o'clock Thursday night, it just quit. It was weird, but we actually did not, you know, get as full as we could have. But it was really, we believe, that weather in the LA Basin that forced those people that would have flown in for the day on Friday evening or Friday sometime during the day and Saturday, they drove.
I was just wondering about the people count, is what I was thinking.
AOPA's website said they had just a little over 11,000 attendees, which was another record for them.
All right.
My 2-year-old daughter said the same thing with a parade of airplanes. She was ecstatic.
Isn't that a fun? It was. All right, any other updates?
Just to say, we passed around that picture of the Bono Concourse opening for those who were able to be there. If you saw that, for those who weren't able to be there, that's what the sign looks like out there. And it does look like it belongs there, and it went very well. And we're waiting to find out where the Arts Commission wants us to stick the bust permanently that we have out there. But we're still waiting for that.
Mr. Chairman, I can report that once the shirt was washed and put in the dryer, the wrinkles came out of it.
All right. That's a clever thing. How is the parking lot thing, the rental parking lot coming?
At this point, we're anticipating around 15th of November, 15th to 19th to have it done. As far as being able to occupy it, we'll still have some items that are lagging. Some of the lighting won't be there, some of the signage won't be there, the permanent stuff, we'll have temporary stuff there. But we're anticipating switching them over around between the 15th and 19th to where they're back in that new lot, and the rest of the parking lot can become available to the public when we need it.
Good.
So that's going very well. Had a couple of hiccups with it, but other than that, it's going fine.
Any other updates? Then we'll move to added starters. Any
There's one final update that I forgot to give earlier on Air Service. Continental called late yesterday afternoon. We will have 3 daily flights beginning February 13th.
3?
Yeah, and so they were going to pull one of the dailies and move the RJ from 2 a day down to 1 and put in a 737-500. They've decided instead to give us a frequency change and just up it to 3 RJs a day, beginning February 13th through April.
From Houston.
From Houston.
Great. Added starters. Anything else? Commission requests reports. And I have a couple things I want to say. I want to thank Barry and Mike and Chief Street for the tour that we all went on. That was well received, and I got a couple phone calls from wives, and they said they really appreciated being part of it. So I thought I was pleased that happened. And you guys did a good job, and thank you, Barry, for the tour at the fire station. Also, I wanted to tell you, I've come out here regularly, and I've been watching the screening process just as an observer over in the corner, so to speak. And they're getting it. It's moving fairly well. You can tell when they're training because there are 4 people looking at the screen like this, but it is working, and I think it's going to work okay. There will be some certainly moments when we get too many people and they will get overwhelmed, but at this point, just my observation is that we're moving people through there in a orderly manner. So I'm pleased about that. Commission requests and reports. Anything else? John?
During the AOPA working booth, I had the pleasure of working alongside the Palm Springs coordinator for the Foreign Trade Zone, Kathy, and learned that they are making some progress, and I think it would behoove the commission to have her on our agenda next month, if possible, for a 5-minute presentation.
Certainly.
Also, I mentioned to the commissioners that the Veterans Day celebration and Veterans Day parade can come up this next weekend. One of the things along that celebration weekend, we have the #1 SEAL in the Pacific Fleet, the commander of all the SEAL teams in the Pacific Fleet, is going to be speaking at dinner on Saturday night. He deployed within a few days after 9/11 to Afghanistan and went in, parachuted in country with his SEAL teams. It'll be a pretty interesting evening. We'll be at the former Ritz-Carlton, the Lodge of Rancho Mirage, $35. If anyone's interested in that, I've got some information on that.
When?
Saturday the 9th. And finally, we have been trying, I'm on the committee for the Veterans Day Parade. We've been trying to get fighter airplanes to fly over and so forth. We haven't succeeded this year, so what we have is the fighter pilot's best friend is going to fly over. We will have a tanker open the parade at 3:30 on Monday afternoon.
Was it you that arranged the overflight of the B-17 at my house earlier this week?
Yes. One other thing, this Saturday is a celebration for the 6th anniversary of the Air Museum.
Yes, sir. Is that long? Wow.
They're going to be flying, I believe, 3 planes, aren't they?
If it doesn't rain, I guess.
The 51, the 40, and the 17.
Yeah.
Really?
So,
Just so they know where his house is.
Not at one time, though.
maybe they're practicing.
So they get it right. Dan?
John Miller, who was a commissioner, I don't know if he still is, but he was promoted from his post in Coachella to the postmaster in Indio.
Oh, really? Very
And
good.
it's a nice promotion.
Yes, it is.
For somebody in the federal service like that.
Very well. Any other added starter or commission requests and reports, city council actions? They are published, and we will publish them as part of the minutes unless there's a discussion item. Correspondence. Nobody's written us a thing? Huh.
That's good.
Staff requests, that's good. Staff requests reports.
Just as a pre-notice to you, we'll be having some type of an inaugural flight celebration for Delta on December 2nd. It'll be around noon, and we'll be getting some information to you. We've got to figure out how to do that with the security issues, but we will be doing something to welcome their first flight from Atlanta.
Very good.
December 2nd or 1st?
December 2nd.
December 1st is the first flight, but it's Sunday. A Sunday wouldn't work well to get the media here. We like the media here, so we're going to do it on the 2nd.
Almost their first flight.
Well, they could have cancellation for that.
I don't think I'm sorry.
Also, too, just to let you know, we had a rare opportunity during AOPA that very few people realized happened, and it was really interesting for us that the FAA has a brand new administrator. She's been on the job about 2 months and was here to speak. She was opening speaker at AOPA, and we had the opportunity. Barry and I and some people from the FAA and TSA met her out here when she got off the airplane the night before and talked to her a few minutes, and then she took time out of her busy schedule the next day with her staff and came over and visited the airport and talked to us for 45 minutes. And we were able to provide some insight to her about information and helpfulness and things that could help. And it was a rare opportunity. Very seldom do you get to have a few minutes with the FAA administrator. So we had that opportunity, and it was spur of the moment type things, and it was a good meeting.
Great. That's very good. That counts.
Speaking of meeting, I'm looking ahead to our calendar. January, first Wednesday in January is New Year's Day.
Good, that's it.
Lots of parade.
We can miss the road, bring some TVs.
So what, would we put that up a week?
I would think that would be the most logical thing to get into the second Wednesday. Unless anybody has an objection, or what's coming on New Year's Day.
In whatever condition you're in, huh?
Yeah. Let's tentatively then, let's plan on having it the following week, Wednesday.
That's long range planning, right?
Same station. If there are no further